Man Up, brought to you by Construction Professionals, a program dedicated to inspiring and helping men live lives of heroic virtue. Join Joe Stopulos every Monday at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. on Iowa Catholic Radio. And now, it's time to Man Up.
Man Up, also underwritten by McDonald Imaging Solutions. Welcome to Man Up on Iowa Catholic Radio, broadcasting today from the Mercy One Studios, heard on 1150 AM, 88.5 FM, and 94.5 FM around the globe, streaming online at iowacatholicradio.com. Also, please like the show on Facebook, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. I am Joe Stopulos. Today I am joined by Bo Bonner, and we'll discuss a little change from our normal Great Men of the Bible series, and we're going to go into the terrible men of the Bible series. We'll get to it after the break. Let's start in prayer. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle, be our protection against the wickedness and the snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray, and do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. We are making our transition into the book of Judges. We're getting into the Promised Land, but before we do that, we need to really highlight the depraved people in the first 5 books of the Bible. So my guest today is Bo Bonner. He's been a guest probably his 4th time on the show, thereabouts. And when I asked him, Bo, who do you want to highlight? Which great man do you want to highlight? He goes, I don't want to highlight any great men. I'd really like to spend time talking about all the terrible people in the Bible and what we can learn from them. So we're going to head to a short break, and when we return, Bo Bonner will be with us. So stick around, and we'll be right back.
Thank you, Construction Professionals, for underwriting Man Up. Construction Professionals have been long supporters of Iowa Catholic Radio, and we've seen their work firsthand. It's very impressive. They do remodeling or new construction that is innovative, functional, and designing what you want. CPCustomHomes.com. I want to thank McDonald Imaging Solutions. They are sponsors of Man Up. If you were at the State Fair this year, they were the ones who provided the new tents and the Pope on a Stick fans that we used. McDonald Imaging Solutions is a family business with thousands of promotional items to choose from. They do things from labeling to marketing, printing, and provide all kinds of promotional products. Marty will personally help any business, big or small, to build their brand with corporate apparel and promo items. McDonald Imaging Solutions. Building brands, attracting new customers online at McDonaldImagingSolutions.com.
Vitae Family Care is part of the Iowa Catholic Radio family. Pro-life physician Greg McKernan, a DO, has practiced for 27 years, seeing patients of all ages with just about every kind of need. Dr. McKernan lives his faith as a physician and is trained in NAPRO technology, allowing him to diagnose and treat many female conditions and even markedly reduce the occurrence of a miscarriage. VitaeFamilyCare.com. Remember, Vitae is Latin for life.
Support for Dowling Catholic Sports 365 is provided in part by Ashworth Vision Clinic with 2 licensed optometrists, Barbara Sheets, a Dowling Catholic graduate, and Dr. Todd Pedig. The Ashworth Vision Clinic team provides complete eye exams, contact lenses, glasses, glaucoma testing, and pre- and post-operative care. Ashworth Vision Clinic is located at Ashworth and 60th Street in West Des Moines, 515-440-4610, online at ashworthvision.com.
My help comes from you. You're right here pulling me through. You carry my weight.
Welcome to Man Up on Iowa Catholic Radio. I am Joe Stopulos. Today I am joined again by Bo Bonner. He is the director of Mission and Ministry at Mercy College of Health Sciences. He's also director of the Zeta Institute here in Des Moines. Bo, welcome back to the show.
It's good to be here. Thank you for asking me to do this very important task for you.
Yeah, when I asked you, similar to all of our guests, so if you guys have thought of all the distinguished guests and the great conversations we've had over the last few months over the great men of the Bible, I sent it to Bo and said, Bo, who would you like to cover? And he goes, I would like to cover, I'll let you use your words, basically the terrible men of the Bible. Give me a catch-all, and I'll just talk about all the depraved people.
The dum-dums of the Bible.
So he wants us to take a macabre look at the at the terrible, horrible people in the Bible, and then we're going to learn from them some good takeaways that we as men can avoid, hopefully.
Another way you can put it is the good, bad examples of the Bible.
Yes. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to give you – so we are basically at this point up to Judges. We're up to Joshua Judges area. You can talk about any of the terrible people from Genesis to basically the first 5 books of the Bible. Go nuts.
Right. Well, there's
a lot of them to choose from.
Yeah,
too,
and the
so
first one is related to all of us, Adam. So Adam, of course, plays a central role and is redeemed in the end, right? Like, not all of the dum-dums of the Bible meet a macabre end.
Are we going with dum-dum of the Bible? That's what
it's
fine.
probably
the
safest, right?
Stick with it.
But what I will say about Adam is he has a very good lesson for all you dudes out there, it's a fundamental lesson, which is stop blaming women for things. As we know, Adam, he gets to do cool stuff, gets to name all the animals. I didn't get to name anything. He gets to roam around, eat what he wants. When he's sort of lonely, not even that lonely, he's got all the animals to hang out with, God gives him a wife. And in all of this, right, Adam, all he has to do is just, be honest with God, let him know what's up. But when Eve eats the fruit, and then it's not like he put up, let's be honest, did he put up much of a resistance?
It wasn't a tremendous fight.
No, not at all. He's like, all right, honey. But then when it came time to cash the check, the dude totally acts like he's not at fault and completely throws that on his wife, Eve. And guys, your wife's not your mom, okay? If she gives you food that you shouldn't eat, I know this is someone who's, really needs to stop eating certain foods. Just because my wife says, hey, eat this, Moncada or lasagna and the cholesterol will kill me, it's not I could say no. And so here we go at the very beginning of time. What have dudes been doing? Blaming women, and they got to stop.
Yeah, I think that's a good first lesson is to stop blaming women. Personal responsibility, if we're going to go the positive side of this thing, perhaps...
You can do that if you want, yes.
I'll take the positive view of this and say that perhaps personal responsibility would be good. If we're going to look at the virtues, temperance, fortitude, the ability to not give in to temptation. These are things that we could work on as men.
Or just, small inquiries into what you're eating, all you got to do.
You're sticking with the eating thing. I was kind of going bigger and grander.
No, that's
really
good,
going
but there's
with
just
food.
very practical things too. Like, guys, just turn around. They got labels on it now.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can
maybe
do.
ask, honey, where did you get this? But no, that's too much for him.
So if you're married to an Italian woman, this might be tougher.
Yes, and my wife is part Italian.
So it's kind of funny.
This is very personal for me.
We've got a family Greek cookbook.
Right.
Do you know what clarified butter is?
Yes.
And do you know how much clarified butter goes into every single Greek dish? It's actually mind-blowing. So now I know why genetically the Greeks are a heavier breed of folk.
Fat is okay for me.
Yeah,
it's carbs.
It's just, you're putting the clarified butter into
a carb.
vats of carbs.
Okay.
So
all right, there's
very little redeeming quality. I was amazed when I saw the cookbook. I'm like, now I know why everything tastes so good.
That's right.
All right, I got it. All right. Anything else to mention on Adam and what we can learn from his lack of example?
No, I think that the idea of not having very much personal responsibility goes into the next sort of chief sin.
But the other thing is, it was an apple, though. So, now you're
It's
you're
not an
shooting
apple.
yourself.
We don't know that.
Well,
actually, if you look at the scripture, it does not say apple.
Okay.
That's kind of,
Because if it was a Honey Crisp, it might be worth it. Anyway.
Really? Are we going to get in an apple fight?
Okay, sorry, I
It's
didn't know.
Fuji, actually. But at any rate, one chief cardinal sin of all humans exhibited by Adam is blame women for everything. And then we move on to Cain, whose chief sin is blame your bros for everything. Not only do we get into the sort of jealousy, right, and God lays it out there. He's all moping around. I mean, moping is one thing too, right? So Cain and Abel, they bring their sacrifices. God approves of Abel's and not Cain, and then Cain's like, walking around. God didn't like mine, and God even comes up to him and goes like, "Hey, man, next time maybe it's going to work out. Just stay positive." And what? Somehow Cain in his Rube Goldberg brain, that comes out as I should murder my brother.
Yeah, that's
right.
I see the connection.
So part of this is maybe make better calculations about what God might have in mind, because I'm sure it wasn't brother murder. But even all of that, right? You know what? Sometimes it happens. You murder your brother. Here's the big deal.
Well, you're going there. Okay, now we're going to keep going.
Yeah,
all right,
so
okay.
the big deal, right, is God goes, where is your brother? And Cain has the lamest response on earth, which is, am I my brother's keeper? Which like what? I mean, in one way, if we were talking about if this show was like telling people how to be evil, what an exquisite bit of prose to try to get out of everything. You've literally killed a guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's your brother. And someone goes, "Where's your brother at?" And you go like, "He's not my responsibility."
Yeah, I didn't know I was supposed to be doing that.
Now, dudes do this in all sorts of ways. We don't need to get into all of them, right? We have more people to cover. But if you look in your life that when people ask you to be responsible, they go, hey, where's this? Hey, that. And your constant refrain is essentially not my problem.
Yeah.
Then you're horrible, and we should give you the mark of Cain and make you run around in the wilderness.
I think the mark of Cain is underutilized.
That's right.
The Scarlet Letter needs to happen more often in today's society. I feel like
that means people should that they have to be more literate if they're going to get that. So, but yes, I agree. Yeah.
So personal responsibility, I think, is a good thing we can take. Owning up to whatever's going on in your life, something we can learn from Cain that he didn't do that we probably should do. Also, give first fruits. Don't give the church your leftovers. That's
right.
a positive example from Abel now. Give the church the first fruits, and we see that example throughout the Bible. Don't give God the leftovers. Put God first. These are all things we learn from that little story.
Maybe don't escalate things so much either. Like you're mad at your brother.
Yeah.
Like maybe start with punching or like a game of horse or
So
something.
if there's someone at work who bugs you,
right? Don't
murder
kill
is
them.
not the
That's-
first.
That is not the answer. And I think
the
if we establish this with your show,
These are the first.
We've done our
That's
job.
why we're doing great work here at the Man Up Show. Tremendous amounts of work that we're doing at the Man Up Show here on Iowa Catholic Radio.
right?
Anything else on Cain that is important for us to know about?
No, just stop complaining. Anyway,
Okay, very good. The next one we want to talk about is Nimrod.
which great name by the way.
Tremendous name. If you're looking for names of children and you're
Right.
coming to this episode, you got maybe a boy you're expecting. You're going to get a lot of great names today.
Yeah. So one of the things about Nimrod, a total aside, we associate Nimrod. In fact, I almost wanted to say you should name this section the Nimrods of the Bible. It's funny because we usually think of Nimrod as like a dummy. It seems like, I haven't proven this, but it seems like we get the idea that Nimrod means dumb, not from the Bible, because in the Bible he's a great hunter who found cities, and then in legend, right, he founds the Tower of Babel. But we say he's an idiot. That seems to come from Bugs Bunny, actually.
I researched this ahead of the show, and
Yes.
I read the same thing.
Right, so like Bugs Bunny's making fun of Elmer Fudd, and he says, "What a Nimrod!" And like to show you that the world used to be much more full of biblical literacy, everybody would go like, "Oh, Elmer Fudd's not a great hunter. Bugs Bunny's being sarcastic."
Yep.
But what that transmogrified into is Elmer Fudd is dumb. So now we call people Nimrods, but what you're accusing them of is like their hunting prowess.
I love the fact that you just talked about the biblical literacy of a populace through the eyes of Bugs Bunny and them
but
understanding. It's
hey,
true.
You know what? The
It's
other thing
true.
that's absolutely true is that people used to do things like know the names of the classical music
Yeah.
that Looney Tunes used, and
Yes.
now we're like, the one that sounds like a bee.
Yeah. The one that's
I think that's the Flight of the
Flight of the
Valkyries.
Bumblebee.
Yeah.
Flight of the
Yeah,
Bumblebee
well,
is
that one
of them
too. There you
so
go.
Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so Nimrod. What do we want to talk about Nimrod?
So Nimrod is the really Catholic one in here because Nimrod in the Bible only has a few things said about him. He comes up, he pops up in a few places. On one hand, he's like I said, he's pointed out as a great hunter before God, and that he was able to build cities, right? And so he's acclaimed to have been the principal builders of the cities of Shinar, which Babel is one of them. So that's where the dots get connected. But as legend grew, and you get in the Tower of Babel, right, that all of a sudden there's this grand we. The people, they all spoke one language. They go they go east. They're east to go to the west. They arrive in the land of Shinar, and we're like, let's build this really great city. And what really great city turns into is let's build a city to heaven, and obviously, right, usurp the dignity of God. And so what can we learn is from Nimrod is stay in your lane. Look, you're a great hunter. And sure, some people wanted to make sure to found some cities with you because, like, I don't know, if a guy came in here and like $5 in the back of his truck and he's like, want to found a city? I'd be like, well, maybe, right?
This guy seems like he's
Yeah.
doing pretty well for himself.
He's doing pretty well for himself, but I don't think necessarily he's the guy you want to ask city plans for. Certainly not to build the first high-rise building that humanity ever came up with, right? So part of it is stay in your lane. If you're a great hunter, stop acting like you're a city planner too. And then also,
we have a lot of people in this show who that's a problem for.
well,
They're tremendous
but
hunters.
They all have their thing. All of you have what you're great at. But don't mistake that like you're going to be great in everything else, right?
Yep.
So Joe's great in radio.
Adequate.
Great.
He's
Great
adequate
in radio, but, maybe don't go try out for any of these marathons or something like this. Yeah.
Luckily, I wasn't planning
But
on
I just
that
wanted to help
anytime
you.
soon. Okay, I appreciate that.
But then, of course, the other ones is, set your sights reasonably. It's one thing to want to build a really awesome city, but like maybe do some first steps, like build the city, make it not be destroyed by God for a few years, then reconsider the whole make it go to heaven.
I think there's also a priority thing that maybe putting God in the center of your city would be a good thing, which is interesting with this anyway. On the Notre Dame Cathedral thing.
That's right.
The center of the city. We'll be very curious to see what happens with that.
They might try to build a city.
They might try to build a
That's
Tower
right.
of Babel out of the top of it.
That's
We'll
right.
see.
And we'll get to call Macron Nimrod.
Next up, you had mentioned doing the crowd.
Yes, the crowd. So, guys, just a little bit of advice. If you ever notice yourself being described as part of the crowd or the people, it's usually never good.
Not good.
Especially in the Bible, if the people or the crowd start showing up, it's always like, God, you give us mammon, but we want quail. Or Moses has been gone for like what essentially is only 4 weeks. Let's go and get Aaron to build a calf. Or, everything rebellion-wise
or
is like
crucify him.
Crucify him is very, I didn't want to skip ahead too much.
Our listeners don't know what's happening.
That's right.
They don't know what's coming.
Yeah, they've not heard the Bible at all, so I wanted to try. Yeah. But if you end up finding yourself in the crowd, especially in the Old Testament, but I think in anywhere where you stop being in any way an agent of what's going on, it's usually a bad move. Yeah. It's usually a bad move.
Leave the crowd.
You don't need to be an individual. You just need to be a part of an organization where they think you being named is important. Mm-hmm. But if you're just sort of the faceless crowd, it hardly works out.
Very, very poorly in the Old Testament. So Aaron comes down. Well, Moses is up.
That's right.
He's off talking with the Lord.
That's right. And literally, I think it's 40 days. So that's like whenever this, just think about 40 days earlier from when this aired. Like, that's not really a long time.
And there's a certain amount of walking that has to happen on his way there.
Oh, okay. So we're getting at like 5 weeks.
I'm saying not that long.
That's
He's
right.
not that long. Right. And Aaron comes, and the crowd.
That's right.
Gives enough peer pressure to Aaron
mm-hmm.
and he acquiesces, and they build the golden calf.
And that's another I don't want to call Aaron a complete dum-dum because obviously he does great things and he's favored by God, but he certainly has a dum-dum moment when he listens to the crowd
mm-hmm.
and decides that this is what he has to do. The crowd is really great about doing some really horrible things like peer pressuring people.
Yep.
The crowd is also really great at blowing things out of proportion. I'm imagining it went something like this, like, hey guys, do you remember when we saw Moses last? No, man, I don't know. It couldn't be that long. And then someone in the crowd's like, he's left.
He's gone.
He's gone. And then they all go, no. And they start counting. And, of course, they're bad at math. This always happens, right? And then, like, what's really 40 days, someone's like, he's been gone a year. And then it just snowballs, right? Like, the crowd's logic is, A, bad at math, B, full of fear, and C, man, just diminishes everybody's rationality in a sort of uniform way.
So is there some takeaway for us then if I'm in a crowd, is it always good at some point to take an inventory and make sure that what's going on is actually, just because confirmation bias and everyone's thinking the exact same thing, it might be good every once in a while to take a temperature, take a step back, assess the situation,
right?
Make sure it's of God, and then proceed if the crowd is actually going the correct direction.
So I think that, like, what I'll say is there's like
I'm trying to baptize this episode, Bo.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
doing
an
my best.
ontological difference, like to be like use a non-radio word. It's not like if you are in a group of people. Group of people do great things. Holy Week not that long ago, right? And as a group of people, we were the body of Christ worshiping the risen Lord. Mm-hmm. So it's not like some sort of number, right? If it's like more than 4 people, you're going to be idiots. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if you can be described as the crowd, because notice that the crowd is never like the people of God or the East Street Band or the Oakland Raiders or Las Vegas Raiders or whatever they are now. No, if you can be named like that, not that you can't do evil, but if we can name you, if you can name yourself individually, if the group you're in can be named, there's accountability to this thing. But if you're the crowd is no one and everyone, and so all the things that we want. So if you find yourself in the crowd, you've already made quite a few steps.
I feel like
too
there's
long.
a good segue there to like the anonymity. What's the word I'm looking
Anonymity.
for? Anonymity of Twitter, of the crowd, of,
That's right.
of social media, of how you can just jump into this faceless crowd of crazy people.
That's right.
Anyway, that's another episode.
No, but I think
that
that's a good way to think about it, right? Is if people can go like, oh, well, Bo and Joe said this on Twitter, or even like, oh, this group of friends were saying this. But when it just becomes, 150 people lambasting someone,
none of them have a name, none of them have a face.
Yes. It's the crowd.
It's the crowd.
And you are the people asking Aaron to make a calf.
All right. I'm excited about this next one.
Yes.
Do you have more on this, or are we moving?
No. We can move on.
Okay. I don't even know who these people are, but I'm excited about it. So we're going to Numbers 16. For
That's
those
right.
Of you so we have been in basically Genesis, Exodus, and now we're in Numbers.
So this starts to be one of the more interesting ideas here, because there's a lot to glean from these people. And then also the punishment is, I'm just going to be really frank, really cool. So Korah, who then also has groups with him of Dathan and Abiram, which weirdly I think are close to Nathan and Abraham, and I think that's supposed to be on purpose, but that's just me throwing that out there.
So this is during the desert wandering.
Yeah.
It's Moses, Aaron. We're wandering in the deserts with the Israelites. We have not reached the promised land.
That's correct.
And in comes these people. Korah.
That's right. So number 16 is all about Korah's rebellion. That's how it's almost always talked about. So Korah, son of Izhar, son of Kohath. So he's part of the Levites. So the Levites already are a group of people set apart, but not quite the priests, right? So the priests do the actual sacrifices. Mm-hmm. The Levites have been the sort of replacement of the firstborn sons. But Korah comes to Moses and then straight out accuses him. He goes, "You have gone too far. Everyone in the entire congregation is holy, and the Lord is in their midst. Why then do you exalt yourselves above the assembly of the Lord?" So when people start bagging on leadership or like talking about radical egalitarianism, and we don't need to get the politics of this idea about like, well, everybody's the same. It starts to be really interesting to see what's going on here, because Korah is on one hand acting like you guys shouldn't be leaders, but then on the other hand, he's actually abandoning the very specific job he's been given, right? If everybody's quote unquote equal, then if you've been given a specific job and the Levites have, well, now you can like throw your hands up and act like you're not responsible for it. So people want the power, or at least the prestige, but not the responsibility. Mm-hmm. So Korah already is pulling off the sort of move that undermines any company, any family, any church, is when people
sounds familiar for lots of churches.
That's right. So like, you guys shouldn't be in charge, and oh, by the way, the thing that I do, well, everybody does that, so I shouldn't be held accountable. Mm-hmm. And so Moses is like, all right, well, we're going to have, which I love about the Old Testament, we're basically going to have a God off, and we're going to do something, and whoever God chooses, then it'll be obvious. In this case, he's like, we're going to put golden censers in the fire, and whoever God rules in favor of, they'll be obviously the leaders, and the other people will be swallowed by the earth, which is a very definitive move. But
I think it was a close. Anyway,
yeah. So, but then the next part is this goes into a sub thing about like a thing that dudes do all the time. So Moses
and
summons,
we got about 1 minute, so
Yeah.
I can't wait to see you go.
So Moses summons Dathan and Abram, and he says, "Hey, you do this," and they're like, "Well, we won't come." And they invert what God says. He goes, "Is it not enough that you brought us up out of a land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness?" Notice the land of the milk and honey is supposed to be the promised land, but they just said Egypt is the land of milk and honey. So notice that when people are trying to usurp what God has willed for them, they literally can look at slavery like the place of freedom, and they can invert everything simply because they want to do this double move of shirking responsibility, but having the limelight as well.
So, what happens? I need to know.
Yeah, they all get swallowed.
They all get swallowed up.
Yeah,
Good,
they
good.
very much get swallowed up.
Is that your favorite way of someone dying in the Old Testament?
Oh, I don't know. That's there's lots of them. So I don't. That's a different show.
That's a totally different.
entirely. But I will say, swallowing up. That's you can't really leave doubts on that one. There's not really a way to interpret that one.
There's no second. There's no second place ribbon for that guy.
There was an earthquake. So
all right, Bo. On this first of hopefully 2 episodes of Terrible Men of the Bible, we appreciate you coming on and sharing your insight on the depravity of man.
That's right. You got to have an expert on some of these things.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're going to head to a short break. Stick around, and we'll be right back.
I'm Jean Wells, Executive Director of the Catholic Tuition Organization, with great news for families who want to send their kids to Catholic school. Today, more families than ever will qualify for tuition assistance from CTO. Even a family of 4 with household income less than $103,000 now qualifies. Have questions? 515-237-5010. What's our bottom line at CTO? It's for the kids and their future.
At Golden Rule, you already know we obey the rules to live by. We know that there are no medals for providing outstanding customer service. It's just what you do when your customers are like family. That's why we provide state-of-the-art training for all of our employees. From customer service to routine maintenance and new equipment, you can always count on Golden Rule. And by taking care of our family, we can take better care of yours. I'm Bobby from Golden Rule, where we deliver respect, understanding, loyalty, expertise, and service every time you call. We have a standard and we prove it. Online at goldenrulephc.com.
My help comes from you. You're right here pulling me through. You carry my
Welcome back to Man Up on Iowa Catholic Radio. My thanks again to Bo Bonner for, again, probably the 4th, 5th time he's been on the show. Always, as the host, an interesting experience to have Bo on the show because I never know where it's going to go. But I think I appreciate his look at the Bible and the fact that through the eyes of these great or these terrible people, there's a lot of lessons to be learned as well. Obviously, this series highlighting the great men, the great figures of the Bible, but there are lessons to be learned from the people who are not great, the people who are terrible, and how we can avoid the bad example that they have set for us. As I mentioned at the end of the Moses episode, as we continue the series and move the story and salvation history forward, the next stop will be at the book of Joshua and the book of Judges. So we are going to discuss the entrance into the promised land and then this cycle of sinning and then redemption that happens throughout the book of Judges. So the next time we get back onto the great men of the Bible, that's where we will be. Thank you again for joining us today on Man Up on Iowa Catholic Radio. I am Joe Stopulos. It's time to man up.
Man Up, inspiring men to live out their call to holiness with Joe Stopulos. Heard Mondays at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. on Iowa Catholic Radio. Brought to you by Construction Professionals.
Man Up, also underwritten by McDonald Imaging Solutions.